What's up, guys? Welcome to a new day. I'm Stephanie Ryder, and this is the 365 Shares podcast. It's January 27th, 2024, and this is the 27th episode of the 365 Shares podcast. Today's topic is overly responsible, and the Big Red Book says, before finding recovery, we suppressed our feelings and were overly responsible. We tried to anticipate the needs of others and meet those needs so we would not be abandoned. I talked a little bit about this today with a few ACA people because we had a little fun social get-together. I was talking about taking over the Monday meeting as group service representative from the previous representative. That person had really been overwhelmed with the job and had just done it for a way too long of a time, but felt so responsible for it and was really convinced that nobody else would take it over and that the meeting would just have to go away because they weren't going to lead the meetings anymore. And I'm really happy that I took it over. This person that I took the meetings over from is awesome, and I really love them. They're amazing. And I just kind of think it's like funny that they were convinced that they were the only one that would do this. And it's just so indicative of that adult child mentality of we just feel so overly responsible. There's so many reasons for it. Maybe we were parentified children who had to take care of inebriated parents. Maybe we were neglected and we had to take care of ourselves at much too early of an age. And maybe we've just had people in our lives that don't take responsibility for themselves. And we justifiably learn to feel that they need our help to survive. And we know that that's usually not true. People need to hit their own rock bottoms. But it's so hard to get out of that mindset of like, if they don't do it, nobody will. So I have to do it. For me, the story that represents this is, it was probably about a year ago. And I think my partner was living with me at the time. We've tried living together a few times and it just doesn't really work for us. But we're great when we both have our own places to go back to. And I felt like I was doing more of the domestic work and it just didn't seem like something that was important to him. He thinks it's stupid to like pick up after yourself. So I felt like I was doing more and I was really working on my codependency, and I forget exactly what prompted this, but I kind of just decided to change and just stop doing stuff. Like if something got messy and normally I'd be the only one to clean it up, I just was like, I'm not going to clean it up. And I kind of just made this mental statement to myself of like, I'm going to do less. And I think that it's healthy for me to do less. And I'm not going to get resentful if he doesn't do it. I'm just going to do less and just like enjoy myself and see what happens. And really quickly after deciding that, like a day or two later, we were both home. It was at night. I was walking from the kitchen to the couch to watch TV, and I had a bowl of chips and a tub of salsa. And I had taken the lid off of the tub of salsa. So I'm walking through the living room. It's all carpet. And somehow I dropped the salsa and the whole tub of salsa went like upside down onto the carpet. And he was like, oh no, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm not going to do anything. And I just like scooped up whatever of the salsa was like, easily accessible. And I don't know if I threw it away or if I salvaged some of it. I don't even remember that part, but I just like kind of picked it up, but left like wet salsa on the carpet and just went and watched TV like I was planning to. And he was so shocked and horrified that I didn't have this sense of urgency of like, what are we going to do? Now there's salsa all over the carpet. And in my mind, I kind of was like, I don't know. I wasn't expecting him to do anything about it. I just figured I would let it dry and like vacuum it up. And then that was like the extent of what I was going to do about it. Because it's an apartment, it's rental carpet, it's had a lot of wear and tear. It's not like a fancy white carpet and I have people coming over all the time that care what my house looks like. So I didn't do anything. And then maybe a week or two goes by and we had a trip. I don't know, it was like probably to visit family. And we were gone for a few days or a week. Jane is our cat sitter. And so she came over and took care of the cat like she always did a great job, always leaves me like a nice little note of like everything went well and the cat was great and, just like something nice. And this time she wrote in the note, I think the cat threw up on the carpet, so I cleaned it up. And like the spot where the salsa had been, which now was like dried, and I do realize in retrospect that it probably looked similar to if the cat had thrown up on the carpet, was gone. So she just got like some of our, pet cleaner that we have under the sink and like cleaned it up. And it was so crazy because it was just like I had decided to do less. And in my mind, what I was doing was just deciding to be comfortable with things not getting done. But then not only did the universe reward me for trying to be less codependent and less overly responsible, but it like also allowed this situation to happen where my friend unknowingly like cleaned up the salsa. So it was just this sort of lesson to me. And I love you, Jane. I'm sorry that I didn't clean it up and I made more work for you. You're the best. But it really was such a funny experience for me because I was like, oh, when we do our work, when we decide to break this cycle of over responsibility, of resentment, of spending time doing things we don't really want to do because we think that we're the only one that can or will get that job done. It was such a funny reminder to me of like, you can just step back and let things happen. The universe or your higher power, God, whatever you view as your HP in this world, really wants you to know that it's doing stuff for you. The whole world, your whole life isn't just based on you fixing everything yourself. There are other things at play. There's that phrase, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him you have a plan. We really have to co-create with the universe. We really have to leave space for the people in our lives to surprise us and show up for us. Because instead of carrying all this resentment of like, nobody ever does anything for me, I never get any help, nobody anticipates my needs, I'm always anticipating other people's needs. But you have to really ask yourself, like, are you allowing people to do things for you? Are you stating your needs? Are you waiting for help? Are you asking for help? Are you accepting of help? Because if you do everything, like if I had thrown my body under the salsa as it was falling through the air, or if I had immediately cleaned it up and got the spot cleaner and got some soda water and spent the next 30 minutes like perfectly cleaning this carpet, I would have just said to myself, of course I did that. I'm the only one that ever does anything. I have to do everything or nothing will get done. And instead, almost as if by magic, a few weeks later, the salsa was gone from the carpet. And it was just such an awesome experience of like, keep doing your work, keep setting little boundaries for yourself, keep trying to be healthier, keep working through your codependency, keep challenging your false belief that you are the only responsible person in your life and you will be rewarded. I'm Steph, and this is my share. The affirmation for today is, on this day, I will remember that I do not need to micromanage the lives of those close to me. They will not abandon me simply because I let them live their own lives. That's super powerful. In my recovery from codependency, I've never really framed it this way. What the affirmation is saying is that the reason we do all this stuff, the reason we're overly responsible, the reason that we don't let people experience the consequences of their own problems, the reason we don't let people show up for us and take on some of the responsibility that we're hoarding for ourselves, it's never occurred to me that we do this because we're afraid that they will abandon us if we let them live their own lives. It's like the craziest way, I think, to phrase this. I'm very familiar with the false belief that people who are alcoholics or are sick or are otherwise not taking care of themselves, that they just can't do it. And so I'm very aware of that in my recovery of like, we need to change the belief that other people can't take care of themselves. But I haven't thought of it this way. I haven't framed it this way or done the work on this, that maybe we do this stuff because we think that they will leave us if we don't. I think a lot of my codependent recovery has really been centered around, I want to have a certain life. I want to have a clean house. I want to have a fun romantic relationship. I want to be healthy. All these things that I've just framed that I want. And I've always thought of it as like, we're codependent and we manage things that we're not supposed to manage because we just don't think the other people can do it. And we think the only way to get the life that we want is to do a little bit of everyone's work for them, right? We want to get an A on the class project, so we do the most of the work because we don't really trust that the slackers in our group are going to step up in the way that we want them to. But I love framing it as we're doing it because we're afraid that they're going to leave us. And if we trace this back to dysfunctional childhood roots or neglectful situations or situations where we have had abandonment, it really makes sense that we're trying to put ourselves in a position where we are indispensable. And I've done this at work a lot. Like, I'll take on something that nobody else wants to do and become the only person that knows how to do that. Or I'll be the best at something where if they want this certain thing done, they always come to me because they know that I do a great job at it. And my sister says she remembers my grandfather saying, make them wonder how they ever lived without you. And that's really how she approaches her work. And she's been very successful in that approach. But it's never occurred to me that that's what we do in our lives as well. And maybe I never consciously had the thought that my parents or my grandparents would abandon me if I didn't help them live their lives or if they didn't need me. But I definitely think I did live my life that way. And I was so convinced, not only in my family relationships, but also in all of my romantic relationships, that I had to be needed because I didn't fully trust that I was wanted. And that, I think, is such a hallmark of codependent relationships, is this false belief that unless we're needed, unless we are critical to the mission, unless we are indispensable, unless we're doing things that no one else is willing to do and we're doing them better and we're proactive about it, then people are going to walk away, because why would they just choose to be around us? We don't have a strong enough sense of our self-worth to trust that people will want to be around us even if we're not doing anything for them. So if you are someone who feels like they wouldn't want me if I wasn't a good cook, or they wouldn't want me if I wasn't bringing home the bacon, or they wouldn't want me if I wasn't meeting their needs sexually, or they wouldn't want me if I wasn't a great mother or father, or they would fire me at work if I wasn't the very best employee who worked the most number of overtime hours, then just think about where that belief came from. And maybe there's an element of it that makes you a good partner, that makes you a good employee. But think about the places where it has built resentment up in your life. And think about the places where it's caused you to make a choice that is valuing other people's time more than you value your own time. Think about the things you haven't done for yourself because you feel like you have to do these things for these other people, because if you don't, they will walk out of your life forever and then you will be distraught. So I'm going to be definitely thinking more about this. It's something I'm going to add into my recovery. I'm going to really think about this framing and this affirmation, and I'm just going to continue to try to let other people live their own lives and trust that they are on the right path, that their universe, that their higher power is guiding them, that the best things are going to come to them, but more importantly, that they are them and I am me. And on that note, I think today we'll end with the serenity prayer, which is how we close out all of our ACA meetings. And we'll say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.